Ethan Hale was 84 years old when he finally decided to share his life story. He stood in front of a group of young people, smiling softly, his hands slightly shaking from age, but his voice still strong. He looked calm, relaxed, and full of wisdom. He knew that the people listening to him were full of dreams, but he also knew many of them were not using their time correctly. He had once been like them, young, hopeful, and unsure what to do next. So he began by saying, "You may not know me, but I understand what it feels like to start with nothing. I know the pain of losing everything. And I also know that a person can rise again, even when life feels impossible." The room suddenly became silent. Everyone wanted to hear more. Ethan grew up in a small town where most people worked in factories and struggled to pay their bills. The streets were noisy, the days felt long, and dreams often died before they even started. Ethan was not born into a rich family. In fact, he grew up with very little. His mother worked long hours in a factory, and his father left when Ethan was still young. Life was not easy, but Ethan never complained. He always believed complaining would not change anything. Instead, he tried to focus on what he could control. At age 17, he thought his life was finally moving forward. He was close to finishing school, hoping to get a simple job and help his mother. But life had different plans. One day, as he was walking home, Ethan saw a crowd outside his small house. Their faces looked worried and sad. His heart began to race. When he reached the door, a neighbor stepped forward and told him the news. His mother had collapsed at work and passed away. Ethan felt the world fall apart in a single moment. His home suddenly felt empty. There was no laughter, no warmth, and no one to guide him. With no relatives to support him and no money in the house, Ethan had no choice but to leave school and find work. He took every job he could get, lifting heavy boxes, cleaning dirty floors, washing dishes, and doing any task that paid even a little. Some days he ate only one meal. Some days he did not eat at all. But he never allowed himself to give up. Even though he was tired and sad, Ethan understood something important. Time was his biggest asset. While other people wasted hours doing nothing, Ethan spent his nights learning new things. He borrowed books from a library and read them slowly. He listened to old radios that played educational programs. He practiced small skills that could help him survive. He taught himself how to budget money, fix simple things, and understand basic business ideas. He knew he did not have advantages like others, but he also knew he could control his effort. He worked hard every day, even when life felt heavy. Ethan looked at the young group and said, "You have something I never had when I was your age, time. You can choose to waste it or use it. But remember, once time is gone, it never comes back." He paused for a moment, letting the words settle in their minds. Then he leaned forward and added, "And if you think my journey was already difficult, trust me, the hardest part had not even started." Do you want to hear Ethan's first big turning point that completely changed his life? Ethan's real turning point came a few months after he started working different small jobs. Life was difficult, and every day felt like a repeat of the last. Wake up early, work long hours, return home tired, and sleep with an empty stomach. But Ethan never stopped believing that one day things would change. He always told himself, "This is not my final life. This is just my starting point." One cold morning, he was pushing heavy crates in a warehouse when his back suddenly began to hurt badly. He dropped the crate and fell to his knees. His manager shouted at him to keep working, but Ethan could not move. That day, he was sent home without pay. As he walked back to his small rented room, the pain in his back was nothing compared to the pain in his heart. He wondered if he would ever escape this cycle. But later that night, something happened that changed everything. That Ethan's neighbor, an old man named Mr. Lewis, knocked on his door. He had seen Ethan working hard for months and wanted to check on him. When Ethan told him what happened, the old man nodded slowly and said, "Son, hard work is good, but smart work is better." Ethan did not fully understand what he meant. So Mr. Lewis invited him to a small room and showed him something surprising: an old notebook filled with writings, business ideas, money-saving tips, and life lessons. Mr. Lewis explained that he once owned a small shop, but lost it due to bad decisions. "Learn from my mistakes," he said. "Don't just work for money. Learn how money works." These simple words hit Ethan deeply. From that day forward, Ethan changed how he used his evenings. Instead of sleeping early or sitting alone in sadness, he visited Mr. Lewis every night. The old man taught him how to manage money, save properly, and invest even small amounts. He also taught Ethan how to speak with confidence, how to think before making decisions, and how to solve problems instead of running from them. Ethan felt like someone finally believed in him. He felt hope again. One evening, Mr. Lewis gave Ethan a small challenge. He said, "Find something you can do better than others and offer it to people." Ethan thought about it for days. He realized he was good at fixing small things: broken radios, loose wires, damaged chairs, old fans, and simple tools. So he started repairing items for neighbors. At first, people did not trust him. But when they saw he charged very little and worked honestly, more people began coming to him. Soon, Ethan started earning a little more money. It wasn't much, but it gave him confidence. He finally felt he was building something of his own, but life was not done testing him yet. One night, a customer blamed Ethan for damaging his old radio, even though Ethan had actually repaired it for free. The man shouted in front of everyone and demanded money. Ethan felt ashamed and defeated. He returned to his room and told Mr. Lewis he wanted to quit everything. But the old man shook his head and said, "Son, success never comes without problems. If you stop now, you will return to the same life you're trying to escape." That night, Ethan realized something powerful. Every dream is tested before it becomes real. He wiped his tears, stood up, and told himself he would not run away again. Ethan looked at the young listeners and said, "Sometimes life pushes you to the ground to see if you can stand back up." Then he smiled and added, "In the next part of my story will show you how one small idea changed my future forever." Want to hear how Ethan turned one simple skill into a life-changing opportunity? After the incident with the angry customer, Ethan felt shaken but not broken. His confidence had taken a hit, but something inside him refused to let him give up. He remembered Mr. Lewis's words, "A dream that isn't tested will never grow." So the next morning, Ethan woke up early, washed his face with cold water, and sat quietly thinking about what he wanted from life. He knew he didn't want to spend his whole life doing hard labor for little money. He wanted something bigger: stability, freedom, and a future where he didn't have to count every coin. He realized that repair work alone wouldn't make him successful. He needed a clear plan. So he went back to Mr. Lewis and asked, "What should I do now?" The old man smiled proudly and said, "Now you start thinking like a builder, not a survivor." Mr. Lewis explained that real success comes when you solve problems for many people, not just a few. Find something people need every day, he advised. Ethan walked around the town for days, observing people, noticing their habits, and studying their needs. He realized something simple but powerful. Everyone in the neighborhood struggled with basic home maintenance: broken taps, loose doors, small electrical issues, and furniture that needed fixing. Most people didn't know how to repair these things or didn't have the time. That's when an idea formed in Ethan's mind. He could start a small service where he repaired household items and fixed things around people's homes. A simple idea, but one that could help many. Ethan began by making small handwritten posters that said, "Quick fix by Ethan, repairs at low cost." He placed them on street poles, shops, and community boards. At first, only a few people called him. But every job he did with perfect honesty. He showed up on time, never overcharged, and always explained what he was repairing. Slowly, people started trusting him. Word spread around the neighborhood that Ethan was reliable and hardworking. More calls started coming in. Sometimes he worked all day without rest, but he never complained. He felt proud that his idea was growing. With more work came more money. Ethan didn't waste his earnings. He remembered Mr. Lewis's lessons. Save first, spend later. He saved a small part of his income every week, even when money was tight. After a few months, he saved enough to buy better tools. With better tools, he could finish jobs faster and offer more services. His small repair business slowly became known across the town. Some people even recommended him to their friends in nearby areas. But as his business grew, new challenges appeared. One day, a group of repair workers in the area felt upset because Ethan was becoming more popular. They believed he was taking their customers. They spread false rumors about him, saying he used cheap materials and overcharged people. When Ethan heard this, he felt hurt. But instead of arguing or fighting, he continued doing honest work. He understood that success often attracts jealousy, and the best way to deal with it is to stay focused. That a few weeks later, something unexpected happened. A large house owner from a nearby neighborhood called Ethan for a repair job. He needed someone trustworthy to fix multiple things in his home. Ethan completed the work with great care. The house owner was so impressed that he recommended Ethan to other wealthy families. Suddenly, Ethan began receiving big jobs that paid much more than before. For the first time, Ethan felt he was truly moving forward. He looked at the young listeners and said, "Everything changed because of one small idea and a lot of honesty." Then he smiled and added, "But what happened next was even bigger. It took me from a simple worker to a real business owner." Want to hear how Ethan took his small repair service and turned it into a full business? As Ethan's repair work grew, something inside him began to change. He no longer felt like a boy struggling to survive. He felt like someone who was slowly building a future. Every phone call he received, every customer who trusted him, and every job he completed taught him something new. But Ethan also knew that if he wanted to grow even more, he had to think bigger. He couldn't stay a one-person repair worker forever. He needed a plan that would help him reach more people, make more money, and build something long-lasting. So one evening, after finishing a long day of work, he sat with Mr. Lewis on the small wooden bench outside their building. "I want to turn this into a real business," Ethan said. The old man smiled proudly and replied, "Then prepare for new challenges, because bigger dreams need bigger efforts." Ethan started by studying how businesses worked. He didn't have fancy books or classes, so he learned in simple ways. He watched how local shops managed customers, how delivery workers organized orders, and how small companies advertised their services. He paid attention to every detail. With time, he created a simple plan: hire one helper, save enough to rent a small workspace, and create a name for his business. He decided to call it Ethan's Home Fix Service. The name was simple, but it showed trust and clarity. Ethan saved for months to buy uniforms, better tools, and basic materials. When he finally hired his first helper, a young man named Joel, it felt like a huge step. Ethan trained Joel the same way Mr. Lewis had trained him, with patience, honesty, and discipline first. Running a small business was much harder than Ethan expected. Customers wanted quick service, suppliers demanded payments, and sometimes jobs went wrong. But Ethan never ignored problems. He always faced them directly and tried to find solutions. His business slowly earned a good reputation for being honest and reliable. People trusted Ethan because he treated every house like his own. When he repaired something, he made sure it lasted. When he made a mistake, he fixed it without charging extra. This honesty became his greatest strength as work increased, Ethan hired 2 more workers. Soon, his small team was fixing homes across 3 neighborhoods. Ethan carefully managed every job, made sure customers were happy, and saved money every month. After 2 years of hard work, he had saved enough to rent a small shop. It wasn't big, but it had space for tools, shelves, and a desk. When the shop opened, Ethan felt like he had stepped into a new chapter of life. He was no longer a boy fixing broken things. He was a business owner with dreams that were finally taking shape, but life tested him again. One night, while Ethan and his workers were out doing repairs, a fire broke out in the shop due to an electrical short circuit. By the time they returned, half the shop was burned, including many tools and supplies. Ethan felt defeated. Years of savings and effort had disappeared in a single night. He sat on the ground outside the shop, staring at the damage. His workers stood quietly behind him, unsure what to say. Ethan's heart felt heavy. For a moment, he wondered if everything he had built was meant to fall apart. But then he remembered his mother, Mr. Lewis, and all the years of struggle. He whispered to himself, "I didn't come this far to stop now." Early the next morning, Ethan returned to the burned shop and started cleaning. More people joined him, neighbors, customers, and even strangers who respected him. Slowly, hope returned. Ethan knew this was not the end. He looked at the young listeners and said softly, "Sometimes life destroys what you built just to see if you can rebuild it stronger." Then he added with a determined smile, "But what happened after the fire is the real miracle. It changed my life in a way I never expected." Want to hear how Ethan rebuilt everything and finally became successful? The morning after the fire, Ethan stood in front of his damaged shop with mixed emotions, sadness, shock, and fear, but also something much stronger, determination. He refused to let a single night erase years of hard work. As he swept the ashes and picked up burnt tools, he kept reminding himself, this is not the end. This is a new start. Soon, neighbors began to gather. Some brought cleaning supplies, others brought water and food, and some simply offered their hands to help. Many of them were Ethan's customers, people he had served with honesty, patience, and care. They came because they believed in him. This moment showed Ethan something he had never fully understood. When you treat people well, the world eventually treats you well too. While cleaning, an older gentleman approached Ethan. He introduced himself as Mr. Graham, a local businessman who often heard positive things about Ethan's service. "I've watched you work hard for years," he said. "I know what happened here was painful, but I also know you are stronger than this moment." Then he handed Ethan something unexpected, a small envelope. Inside it was a loan offer with no interest. He trusted Ethan so much that he was willing to financially support him without demanding anything in return. Ethan couldn't believe it. His eyes filled with tears, not from sadness this time, but from gratitude. With this loan and support from the community, Ethan rebuilt his shop, better, stronger, and more organized than before. He bought quality tools, improved safety systems, and expanded his services. His workers returned with even more dedication. Soon, the shop became busier than ever. People from far neighborhoods came to Ethan's business because they heard about his honesty and how the whole community stood behind him. Within a year, Ethan opened a second shop, then hired more workers, and eventually registered a proper company, Hale Home Services. As years passed, Ethan's business continued to grow. He invested his earnings wisely, buying small properties, renting them out, and saving money instead of wasting it. Bit by bit, he built multiple income sources. He learned from every mistake, trusted in patience, and avoided shortcuts. His childhood struggles had taught him the most important lesson. Real success comes slowly, but stays forever. By the time Ethan reached his 60s, he had become a well-known businessman in the region. People respected him, not only for his success, but for his humility and kindness. But Ethan never forgot his past. He never forgot the nights he slept hungry, the days he cried quietly, or the times he almost gave up. He remembered Mr. Lewis, the old man who taught him everything, and named a scholarship program after him to help young people learn valuable skills. Ethan believed that success means nothing unless you share it with others. He became a mentor, guiding hundreds of young workers who wanted to build better lives. His story became a light for those who felt stuck, hopeless, or lost. He always told them, "You don't need a perfect start. You just need a strong heart." Now, standing in front of the young listeners, Ethan finished his story with calm eyes and a gentle smile. "I did not become successful because I was lucky," he said. "I became successful because I refused to quit. Every fall taught me something. Every failure pushed me forward. And every moment of pain became the reason I worked harder." The room was silent. Everyone was listening closely. Then Ethan added one final message. "Life will test you, hurt you, and push you down. But if you stand up every time, nothing can stop you. Your future is not decided by where you start. It is decided by what you choose to do next." He paused, then said his last powerful line. "Now go and build a life you'll be proud to tell one day."